I would like to welcome our filmmakers that are a part of our Twisted Shorts block. Come on to stage, please. We also have a filmmaker joining us virtually via Zoom. Sparks, if you could jump over to that. We'll make sure that we are hearing him. Hello, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. There's Mychal. Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
And we can hear you. Fantastic. Technology is working. All right. That's better than how things went Friday. Hello, everyone. My name is Kurt Lidke. I'm board chair for Klamath Film, the 501c3 organization that puts on the Klamath Independent Film Festival. We just saw 5 films: Security Plan by Jeremy Evan Talor. We saw Writer's Retreat by Cosmo Spada, Shop at the Edge of Town by Cailin Tamplin, and After the Beep by Daniel Clamorous and Jared Waters. Daniel and Jared have not joined us. Maybe Jared might join our Zoom call. We'll see. And Mychal Sargent, up on our Zoom call, is the director of Forfeit. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. We appreciate it, and congratulations on your films. We have a few that are no strangers to our festival. Cosmo, you've been in our festival before. Thank you for making the trip down. You've attended virtually previously, and we appreciate you making the trek to be here. Also, Cailin as well. You have also been a part of our festival previously, and I believe this is your first time here physically after being here virtually before. Third time in the festival. Okay. Okay, terrific. Well, thank you. And Jeremy, I believe this is your first time on our festival. However, you have Klamath roots, correct?
Yes.
But pass the mic that way.
I'm going to date myself here a little bit, but 96, 97 was my freshman year of college, and I went to OIT and actually lived in an apartment like 3 blocks from here, right next to the train tracks. And I used to shop at that center when it was Safeway. And well, I guess since we kind of opened that can of worms, the family that I befriended when I moved here was the Muchastegis, and they owned the storage units where I lived in that apartment. And I don't know if you're familiar with them, but Tim built the cultural center, and he did the remodel here. And, you know, he passed a few years ago, and it's definitely like a full circle, weird, surreal moment to be here, for sure.
Yeah, and you were here yesterday as well. Thank you for being a part of our festival. When you were going to Oregon Tech, were you thinking about becoming a filmmaker, and then any expectation you would be going full circle to come back to the Ross Ragland and have a film you made shown at the theater that you used to live right next door to?
So I talked to Cassidy about this a little bit in the interview, but so I had a full ride scholarship there. I thought I was going to be an engineer and just work a 9 to 5 and have a certain life. And there was a day where I was staring at a microwave while I was microwaving dirt and weighing it. And I was just like, I don't think I want to do this. And when I was younger, I used to draw cartoons, and I made VHS short films with my friends. Long story short, I ended up going to the Art Institute of Portland for animation, and kind of going from there.
And we have one more gentleman on stage. If you could introduce yourself, please.
Hi, my name is Ezra, and I was the assistant director and producer for Cailin's film, Shop at the Edge of Town.
And joining us virtually, hello, Mychal, coming to us from Eugene. Hello, sir.
I apologize for not being able to be there. I had an early morning shoot. But I wish I could be there with you all. Thank you for doing this.
Well, hopefully it's not as cold as Forfeit looked in that one night that you were shooting.
Yeah, that was the coldest night of the year. We did it all in one night. And while we were shooting it, every time I would say cut, all the actors would run from set to get the cop car to turn up the heat. And then I'd be like, we're going again, guys. And all get out of the cop car. It was very cold.
Well, thank you for taking the time to join us virtually. We appreciate. it. As a reminder to our audience, we have a microphone there and a microphone there. If you would like to ask a question for any of our filmmakers, please step up and do so, and we will get an opportunity to speak. So first of all, let's go down the line with Security Plan and Jeremy. Your film, how did you come up with the concept for making a film about, it's two brothers, and it's like a betrayal for a betrayal, right?
Yes. There's a film called Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, and it was Sidney Lumet's last movie, and it had Ethan Hawke and Philip Seymour Hoffman playing brothers, and they conspire in the movie to rob their parents' jewelry store, and I was kind of thinking that just kind of planted the seed. And the other actor, Scott, he and I, when I lived in Portland, we were like the two half Asian actors that kept getting cast as like the non-threatening multi-ethnic dad in like corporate videos and stuff like that. And I wanted us to be able to do something that had a little more meat to it. And Scott is a lot further along than I am in like the filmmaking and acting journey. And so it was really gracious of him to give me his time to do that. And we actually shot it at late at night, and he had to leave at like 4 a.m. the next day to go to San Diego for Thanksgiving. And he kept being like, all right, do you need anything else? And I was like, Scott, you have to leave. And he was just like, no, I want to make sure you have everything you need. And he was really gracious about that.
That's terrific. Cosmo, for your film, Writer's Retreat, we all have that inner voice. Not a lot of us get to actually kill your conscience the way that you did in this film. Did that concept come up first of like, shut up inner voice and that might be kind of interesting. Maybe I can make a film around that. Like, how did you come up with the idea for Writer's Retreat?
Yeah, so the concept, it was a little backwards in that we started with the location of the cabin first. We were granted access to that cabin, and we really wanted to take good advantage of that place. And while doing some location scouting, there was already a typewriter there. And so we started brainstorming about stories we could tell there. And that morphed into the writer facing off against his inner critic. And in order to up the production value, we wanted to film with snow. That was filmed near Mount Hood. And we planned this whole shoot around filming with snow. And unfortunately, when we got to film our first weekend, all the snow had melted. And so what you see in the film is some trickery. Thankfully, we had our establishing shot of the whole cabin covered in snow. But then as we were filming outside, we had to like shovel patches of snow into our shot. We had to like go away from the cabin and film in just this one spot that didn't melt, thankfully, so we could drag a body through it, drip some blood. Yeah.
And your film abstractly hits close to home for me. I worked in the music industry for many years, and I worked with a lot of artists that had both the great fortune and terrible burden of having a hit song. And then the question is, what next? And if you don't have the next hit, you are forever banished into the realm of one-hit wonder. The same thing can happen in filmmaking too. I have a friend in Los Angeles. He and I worked on video games years ago and struggling, making low-budget films, living in a shoebox apartment. And then he got hired to be the writer of the Sonic the Hedgehog movies. $400 million later, got a nice little paycheck, but then there's the burden of, oh crap, we need to do Sonic 2. So the idea of making a film around the burdens of having success and then feeling the pressure to maintain that success and having the inner turmoil. How did that concept come up? You said you had the cabin first and you built that, but how did you land on that topic?
Yeah, so we wanted the writer to, the critic and the writer are supposed to meant to be kind of a bickering couple throughout the film, and their relationship sort of was birthed from the success of the writer's first novel. It was a huge hit, #1 bestseller. You can see it on the cover, and that allows the critic to have such a voice in the matter because there's all these internal pressures at stake, but also there's external with all of the expectations of the fans in writing the sequel.
And let's talk about Forfeit for a minute. What a fascinating film to put a little spin on a take. This is certainly a topic that has been very high profile in national news. Not necessarily civil forfeiture, but the film has an element of racial profiling in it. There's the rookie cop and the veteran cop aspect. And you put a really interesting twist on that. It kind of makes people think. How did the concept of forfeit come together?
A friend of mine and I were talking about the culture like a few years ago. We were talking about that how unfair it is that it's something that just doesn't seem even even to the layman who doesn't isn't a lawyer or understands the why laws or why it just doesn't it never seemed fair. And so we wanted to do a story based on that, but I also wanted to do a story on the racial profiling and the way that police see civilians, especially civilians of color, and the way that police, the way that when they get something in their mind that one thing is one way, nothing can keep them from other way. For sure, that's the truth of it until it hits them in the face that they were dead wrong. And so I wanted there to be elements of the police officer knowing for sure something in the bed of the truck, got to get down to what's in there, what is he doing, what is he hiding. And in fact, he couldn't have been more wrong. And all that came together.
Now, I know you've had a chance to showcase Forfeit previously. I first saw that film at a mini festival in Eugene months ago, and I immediately came up to you and said, "You have to submit your film for our festival." But since it is a very touchy topic, and it is something that is very relevant in our society today, and it's something that has affected the entire country, what kind of responses have you gotten from Forfeit?
I'll tell you after this, because when you saw it, that was the first time I had ever shown it in public. I was terrified to show it in public because right after shooting and editing it, the George Floyd happened and all the riots, and I thought this just isn't the right time, especially for a white filmmaker to be giving this subject into a film. Like, it wasn't my story to tell, and I even talked to our actor who was in the car at the time. His character's name is Mychal, actor's name is Xavier. And I was talking to him about whether I should show it or not. He was like, maybe we should show it a little bit. So that's what I did. So a couple of years after that, there was this chance to show it in Eugene for free at this little short film showcase. And I was like, let's see what the reaction is. And it was really good, really positive. And then you came up to me and said, hey, you should put this in Klamath. So I submitted it. Really happy to be here.
Well, I will tell you that this summer I taught a film camp. In fact, this morning we watched our K through 12 films from several of my students, and I showed them a quick, just 3-minute trailer of all of the films that had been selected for our film camp this year. And of all of the films they saw, the only one they wanted to see was Forfeit.
Well, that means it's fun.
Yeah.
I'm glad that K through 12 are really enjoying my film because that's the exact demographic.
We had a really fascinating conversation. Now, the camp was supposed to be 100% technical, but it turned into a really fascinating social conversation for about half an hour following your film. So if nothing else, we had a really great talk about it with some middle school and high school students.
And the whole point of it was to spark outrage that then turned into productive conversation.
Well, you accomplished that with at least 17 Klamath kids, so good job on that.
Good. Thank you.
I want to touch on Shop at the Edge of Town in just a minute, but first we have a question over here.
Well, Mychal, I haven't gotten to chat with you yet. You're the only one on the panel, but thank you so much for bringing your film to our film festival. And honestly, I think it's just like a great reminder for everybody about the social justice issues that, were obviously huge like a year ago. And so it's a good reminder to bring it back and share the story. So we really appreciate it. But my question is for Cailin and Ezra. So ever since watching your film about a few months ago, I have had a reoccurring nightmare about a ghoulish harbinger who's coming to my shop. And so I would just like to ask, did y'all think that maybe the shopkeeper has a happy ending? What do you envision that her life looks like? Maybe the eternal night is over. Maybe she sees the sun. I don't know. Just what are your thoughts on that?
Pain and misery. No.
No, I request another answer.
That's Shop at the Edge of Town Part 2 that we'll see at next year's film festival, right?
I guess a real answer is I wrote backstories for all the characters. Well, she's supposed to be kind of this Black Widow character, not the superhero, the spider, that she looks innocent, and the shop is like this beacon of light in this eternal darkness. So she has to derive some sort of pleasure out of overwhelming revenge on people who stumble into her shop, especially if they look like that guy. So, yeah.
You do a little bit of foreshadowing with that, because when the character first walks into the shop, there's a trash can full of clothes that look like they're just slightly smoking, and then at the end you show that by I'm not sure if it's special bullets that she has in the gun, and it's werewolves. You don't really specify that, but they kind of like turn into sort of like black ice sort of fog, and just the clothes remain. And so she's actually been like compiling clothing from all these people that have been trying to take her out, right?
That's true.
Let's do a little world building on Shop at the Edge of Town, because I find it really interesting. It has kind of a Tim Burton-esque sort of vibe to it in terms of world, or maybe like German Expressionism, kind of Dr. Caligari sort of feel. So it's an alternative reality where the sun used to exist but no longer, right? And there's a moon clock, and people have to get vitamin D through liquid UV. And that's it. Am I getting this right for the most part? I mean, you two are the storytellers. Don't let me tell your story, but give us a background on kind of what this world is, because it's sort of left to either picking up those little subtleties on screen or left to open interpretation.
No, yeah, there is definitely. That's pretty close.
I win. I got it right. Okay, terrific.
Yeah, no, there's one of the backstory for the main ghoulish man was, yes, there was this happening across this, not the entire world, but this focus area where the sun stopped rising, and it had some sort of paranormal effect over this community. And there's this pastor, going back to that classic the church is evil sort of thing. But
I love the little nod too, where he's reciting what seems like a Bible passage, but it's the Book of Karloff, as a little Boris Karloff reference to the guy who played Frankenstein.
Yeah. This whole thing was stemmed from like Universal monster movies and Cabinet Dr. Caligari. I wish I had a lot more money to make it super expressionist, because that is like the pinnacle of German expressionism. But no, there's a lot of story to get into with the main bad guy's father was a pastor of this church that embraced this. The moon is our new, it's some enigmatic thing, and the main bad guy was supposed to be his son, and he wanted to take over the church, but people thought him too weird. He'd be like, he would be under the church pews, and he would steal people's stuff, or he would listen into conversations. And eventually he was outcast from the church, and he would like force people into this strange religion, which would bring them out into the moon, which changes you. And I don't know.
You had some cool little effects going on with like the windows breaking. It looked like there was almost like milk dripping out of the windows when they would break or something. Like there's like some sort of special moon effect going on.
Some moon liquid, yeah.
That was all. That was all Cailin. He works as an animator as well, and so that was one of the really cool things. He was able to write into the script, and then you know accomplish. It was pretty awesome.
Did you have a question over here, Lori?
Yeah, my question is for Jeremy. So I actually have two, I guess. So there's a post-it on the monitor of the computer that's like planning to fail or failing to plan, that quote. And sorry, a microphone, I'm nervous. But I was wondering, was that just sort of an extra detail that you decided to add, or was that something that you really wanted sort of part because that moment just had more impact on that? So that's my first question. And then my second question, if you want to provide any information on why you chose an eye patch and then putting the microphone sort of hidden in there and yeah.
First off, I really liked your animated film, by the way. Let's see. Your first question was
Yeah, about
the quote on the computer.
Okay.
Failing to plan is planning to fail.
that originally said something else, and I did that later in post. Just kind of keeping in mind with like the brother that's like all about positive quotes and everything, and a plan also having to do with the security plan and everything. I'm really nervous. Like
Is it weird being on the stage that you were like, man, I saw movies here a lot?
well, keeping with what Marty was. Is Marty still here?
Marty's still here.
Like I realize I'm guilty of cinematic masturbation because the production value of all of their films were amazing. I threw up some pseudonyms up there, but it really was a one-person crew. And like I'm just like, man, their production value, it's like feature films, all these. Okay. Okay. Well, I'm going to try to stop from now on. But your other question was about
It was about the eye patch, and like you could have put the microphone down here, but you put the microphone in the eye patch. Why?
Okay, so a while ago I've had a couple eye surgeries and I have eye issues, and one of them went bad and my eye was just kind of wandering for a while, and I had to wear an eye patch, and it felt like I was doing like a sociology experiment or something, because like when you're a dark-skinned guy with a shaved head and you're walking around with an eye patch, people like, it was almost like they thought I was a badass, or I was, it just felt, you could tell the vibe changed. And so I just had this weird thing in my head about wearing an eye patch, and you can notice it on camera now. My eye didn't totally recover. And sometimes when I get really emotional, one eye will be animated and the other one just stays kind of dead. And it makes me a little self-conscious if I'm acting and it's an emotional scene. And to answer your question honestly, a lot of you guys know Ted Rooney. I was in his acting class, and he makes you watch yourself in an extreme close-up. And I had a scene in his acting class where it was a really animated, emotional scene, and I had one eye that was going all over the place and one eye that was just kind of sitting there. And these two female actresses that were sitting in front of me, they started nervously laughing. And this part of me just like, it reminded me of like being the nerdy kid that looked like Steve Urkel, and all of these insecurities kind of came out, and I just, I kind of combined everything to have a reason to wear the eye patch, but I wanted to wear it because it kind of makes me feel free to emote and not be self-conscious about that. And in those girls' defense, they weren't trying to be mean girls, but you know how when you aren't supposed to laugh, it makes you laugh even worse, and then when you have a friend next to you. So even though it like hurt my feelings, I had sympathy for them because I realized they weren't trying to be rude, you know what I mean?
It's like trying to have a conversation with someone with a lazy eye, and you don't know which eye to look at, so you just kind of stare here, but it looks like you're engaging them, right?
Yeah. Or you have that split second to pick one.
Right, exactly. Oh crap, left, right. I'll go right. It looked like Jared Waters was trying to join us. I'm not sure. Jared, maybe he just came in via audio, and we don't have picture. Jared, are you there? I guess Jared's not there. Jared was the director of After the Beep. So I was hoping we could talk to him as well, but I guess he's here with us in spirit, but not virtually. Mychal, let's go back to you again, unless there's another question up here. Doesn't look like it. In regards to forfeit, you had said that you and a friend were talking about civil forfeiture, and that that led to eventually deciding to do a film, but between that conversation and making it, how quick was that turnaround? Like, what had you done a lot of films previously where you're like, okay, let's just get rolling, or was this a really difficult project to kind of come together and decide how are we going to do this and present it properly?
This was actually one of the easiest projects to come together because it was a much shorter script. Before this, I had done a short film that was about 20 minutes long called Pendulum, and it had a lot of like time travel elements to it. The script is complicated and the shoot's complicated, and so this felt much easier. I have a little bit of help, which is nice because I'm actually a writer and director at an ad agency, so I know a lot of people kind of in this industry, and I have friends around teams that are in the industry, or at least make short films around the team, so I definitely had quite a bit of help, and that helped the process a lot. Really the only thing that hindered it was the damn hole. It was so cool.
You know, I think that actually adds to the film, though, because you can kind of see, like you can see the police officer's breath, and it looks like there's sort of steam coming off their head. Especially the more veteran cop, it's a kind of a subtle added effect to it that I think really adds to the overall cinematography of your film.
Thank you. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, folks. In editing,
From the nice, comfy, warm editing bay.
yeah, exactly. Wrapped up in a blanket with my key by my side. Yeah.
Do we have a question over here?
Yeah, I've got a shout out to Kurt and the Klamath film. And it just dawned on me that so many of these films have either the environment or the outdoors, either as a major theme or a setting, and how well that was done. Virtually in almost every film, you see it in all of your films here, and it's really nice to see that. I even from the kids on up, how well the outdoors was used as well as honored. So,
Well, thank you. A big focus of our film festival, and I know this is about you guys now, but let me just take a real quick diatribe. We exclusively showcase made in Oregon films for a reason. I'm sure some of our filmmakers here, some of you, I don't know well enough if you're very well traveled or not. I've been to 45 states in the country. And part of the reason why I wanted to come to this area and get involved in film is that, first of all, the state of Oregon has some of the most diverse outdoor landscapes and beautiful landscapes to film in across the entire country. But a microcosm of that is also where we're at right here in Klamath. You know, for some of you, this may be your first time visiting. Jeremy, and you spent some time here. And for our locals here, from where we're sitting right now, drive 15 minutes in different directions. What do you see? You've got either desert, you've got open ag plains, you've got mountains, you've got rivers, lakes, you've got trees, and you've got city, all within a 15-minute drive of each other. It's one of the most diverse areas for outdoor landscapes in the entire country. In terms of, from a filmmaking perspective, if you have to drive a short distance, you're saving money. And so we really try to showcase the Klamath Basin as this is an extraordinary place to come and make a film here. And we hope that our filmmakers who are visiting or are joining us virtually recognize that the Klamath Basin is a film-friendly place that maybe you would like to come back sometime. So with that, we have just a couple of minutes left before our next block of films. But Ray, did you have a question, or are you just walking down?
I actually have a question this time.
fantastic.
Sort of a question. Basically, what I've experienced here, and this has been a great film festival, and I love the fact that it's Oregon-centric. And what I experience, and I know there's a lot of other filmmakers here, is when I'm watching these films, I'm going, Dan Kyle. I've worked with Dan Kyle. I'm looking up at Mychal there because he worked with Dan Kyle in his film. And I guess the question would be how I was working with Dan, but I noticed Dan last night in a couple of other films as well, and locations with Cailin's and Ezra's films. Like, I know that location. So it's a great experience in watching these films and being so able to relate to the people I'm seeing it and the places I'm seeing it. So I just kind of wanted to say that and just kind of connect with Mychal saying, hey, you worked with Dan. How was that? How's he doing?
It's fantastic. He's so intense and really wants to get down to the finite details of the emotions of the character. And I mean, he seems like such just a rugged, like, I don't know, I would expect him to be out on a horse, lassoing sheep or something, but do you lasso sheep? I don't know if that's the thing. Instead, he's just this really sweet guy that just wants to find all the emotion of every character and just play the best that he can. He's fantastic. I love him.
It is great to be a part of this whole community, and I think I'm going to go text him right now, say I saw the film and it was great. So thank you.
That is something that we've had an overlap. We've had the same actor appear in several films. We've had, I believe it was Roland yesterday pointed out, hey, I made a film at that same location too. So it's wonderful to see, there's so many great places to film around Oregon, but it's great to see that not only do we have diversity in genres of films, but we have diversity in landscapes. Cosmo's film being up in the mountains in wintertime, Jeremy's in the city, yours in this weird abstract expressionistic world, Mychal's in the gritty urban environment. Even just within this scope, we got a really wide range of types of locations that are all readily available in Oregon. We have another question over here.
Yeah, Cosmo, when we were talking about locations and everything in the cabin you were at, well, it's also important to kind of think about the seasons and what you might expect if there's snow or if there's not snow. So I kind of wanted to ask you about maybe the challenges that you faced while trying to get that cold cabin scene going.
Yeah, so Casey Hastings, who is our production designer, is in the audience. She experienced a problem firsthand with our location. The elevation that we were at made it difficult in that she built this blood pump that was utilized in the scene where the critic gets stabbed, blood's pouring out, but due to the elevation, it made it difficult to get the blood pumping out of it, so we had to pump it 50 times. But also, driving up to the location, just an hour from Portland, just the change in elevation, it caused the blood pump to basically explode in our backseat of our car. And so the first thing that happened on day one of shooting was that we had to clean out the back of Casey's car. It looked like a murder scene because all the blood edges came out of the blood pump.
Maybe that added to the ambiance and vibe of your overall film, though.
I think it did, yeah.
We have just a couple minutes left here before we go on to our next block of films, but I want to give every filmmaker a chance to chime in with any final thoughts or any takeaways of what you hope that audiences get out of your film. Mychal, let's start with you.
You take away that to doubt yourself and never assume that your first thought about anyone is correct, and try to be kind to everyone, and don't get pulled over.
Cailin and Ezra, what do you hope that people take away from your film?
I just wanted to weird people out and just have a good old time.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah.
No, I want to first off just say thank you to everyone for coming, and I hope you enjoyed it. That's really it. But I also just want to say I completely agree with what you were talking about with respect to Oregon being a great place to film. I live in LA currently, but I grew up here, And this is the first film that I was able to come back to Oregon and make, and it was really a test in many ways, because in LA there's a ton of resources, and we knew some people here, but we didn't really, and it was kind of like, let's I don't know, it's pandemic time, let's see if we can do it. And it's lovely, and we've got to meet a ton of people. And I want to give my dad a shout out. He's in the audience as well. He's an
Hi, Dad.
he's an executive producer as well on the film. We've made a few projects together, and yeah, I hope to continue to make films here.
Hope keep bringing crews up, and Klamath Film is here to help if you need that at all.
Awesome.
Jeremy, your final thoughts.
I appreciate your honesty. I'd be lying if I said I had an awesome social message underlying my film. But I guess I would say that even if you have limited resources, you can make something good if you have a decent story. I mean, one-person crew, $200 cameras, and it still was okay.
In Cosmo, the floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, so Writer's Retreat is very much for this type of audience, full of creatives. It was meant to be a universal theme, regardless of your creative medium, overcoming adversity over creative inhibitions. And I'm glad to resonate with people. Thank you.
That was our Twisted Film Block and our filmmakers. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us in person and virtually at the Klamath Independent Film Festival. Congratulations on having your films accepted, and be sure to stick around for our awards coming up in just a couple hours to see if you walk away with a prize. Mychal, thank you for joining us virtually. Cailin, Ezra, Jeremy, Cosmo, thank you very much to our filmmakers.
Good job, you guys.
Good job. Oh, sorry. Up next is our funny and lighthearted block. I think we need a palate cleanser after our PTSD panel, and all of these dark films. So we're going to get into some fun, lighthearted stuff.